Have you ever felt a sudden burst of energy at midnight, promising yourself you will completely change your life tomorrow? You probably set an alarm for 5 in the morning, planned a brutal workout, and swore to eat nothing but vegetables. But when that alarm finally rings, the magical energy is completely gone, leaving you tired and full of guilt. Why does this exact cycle of extreme excitement and sudden failure happen to almost every single person on Earth? The answer lies in an epic, invisible battle happening inside your brain right now. Today, we are putting two heavyweight champions in the ring: flash motivation versus sustainable systems. Society has completely brainwashed us into worshiping the idea of motivation. We watch high-energy videos, listen to dramatic music, and wait for that perfect feeling of inspiration before we start working. We treat motivation like a magical superpower that separates successful people from lazy people. But if you look closely at human biology, you will discover a very uncomfortable truth. Relying on motivation to build your life is like trying to heat your entire house using only matchsticks. It burns incredibly bright for a few seconds, but it will inevitably leave you freezing in the dark. Let us deeply examine the first fighter in our mental boxing ring, which is flash motivation. Flash motivation is basically an emotional response triggered by a chemical in your brain called dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, which is a tiny messenger molecule that creates feelings of desire and anticipation. When you imagine yourself looking incredibly fit or becoming wealthy, your brain releases a huge wave of dopamine. This chemical wave makes you feel invincible, energetic, and completely ready to conquer the world. The problem is that human emotions are biologically designed to be temporary and unstable. Your brain simply cannot maintain a massive dopamine rush for hours, let alone for weeks or months. Motivation is directly tied to your current mood, your blood sugar levels, and how well you slept last night. If you have a stressful day at work, your emotional motivation gets completely wiped out. If it is raining outside and cold, the dopamine levels drop, and your desire to run vanishes. This means that flash motivation is a fair-weather friend who abandons you the second things get difficult. Now, let us introduce the ultimate champion of long-term success, which is the sustainable system. A system is a fixed, repeatable process that removes emotion completely from the equation. It is a set of carefully designed daily rules and environmental triggers that guide your behavior automatically. While motivation asks, "Do I feel like doing this today?" a system simply states, "This is what happens next." Systems operate on a completely different psychological principle called cognitive ease. Cognitive ease is the brain's natural preference for doing whatever requires the absolute least amount of mental effort. Every time you have to make a conscious decision, you burn a little bit of mental energy. This energy drain leads to decision fatigue, which makes your willpower weaker as the day goes on. A sustainable system eliminates the need to make choices because the choice is already made for you. Think of motivation as manually pushing a heavy car up a steep hill using pure physical strength. You might move it a few feet, but eventually your muscles will completely give out. Think of a system as building a smooth, paved road going downhill. The car rolls forward effortlessly due to gravity, requiring almost zero physical effort from you. The most highly productive people in the world are not constantly bursting with joyous motivation. They do not possess a magical gene that makes them love waking up early and doing boring tasks. They simply rely on the power of their systems to carry them through the days when they feel awful. Let us break down how a system actually creates this automatic, frictionless movement. The first crucial element of a sustainable system is called choice architecture. Choice architecture means organizing your physical environment so that the good habit is the easiest possible action to take. It completely bypasses your emotional state by manipulating the objects around you. If you want to drink more water, a system dictates that you place a full glass right next to your computer mouse. You do not need the motivation to be healthy, you just need to be slightly thirsty and incredibly lazy. Because the water is literally touching your hand, drinking it becomes the path of least resistance. The second element of a strong system is the concept of habit stacking. Habit stacking means taking a brand new goal and attaching it to something you already do on autopilot every single day. For example, you already have an automatic system for brushing your teeth every morning. You do not need a motivational speech to convince yourself to pick up a toothbrush. So, you stack a new habit by deciding you will do 10 push-ups immediately after putting the toothbrush down. You are hijacking an old, reliable neurological pathway to power a new, difficult behavior. This effectively removes the hardest part of any task, which is finding the willpower to just start. The third element of a winning system is standardizing your actions before you try to optimize them. Flash motivation always tries to optimize immediately by demanding a perfect 2-hour gym session on day one. A sustainable system demands only standardizing a 5-minute stretch on the living room floor. Systems focus on consistency first, proving to the brain that this is simply the new normal. Once the behavior is locked in as a normal, daily occurrence, then you can slowly increase the intensity. Motivation is obsessed with the final outcome, dreaming about the perfect body or the massive bank account. Systems are entirely obsessed with the daily process, ignoring the outcome to focus on the immediate steps. If you focus only on the grand outcome, the distance between where you are and where you want to be causes deep anxiety. This anxiety acts as massive friction, making your brain want to shut down and watch television instead. But if you focus only on executing today's tiny system, there is zero anxiety because the goal is so small. Winning the day just means checking off a tiny box, which provides a steady, reliable drip of dopamine. This steady drip is exactly what keeps the system running smoothly over decades, completely crushing sudden flashes of motivation. Many people mistakenly believe that if they just find their true passion, they will never lack motivation again. They think professional athletes or famous artists jump out of bed every single morning filled with fiery purpose. This is a dangerous illusion that makes ordinary people feel like they are uniquely broken. Even the most passionate artists and athletes experience days where they absolutely hate their craft. An Olympic swimmer does not jump into a freezing pool at 4 in the morning because they feel motivated. They jump in because their system dictates that they have to meet their coach, and their clothes were laid out the night before. They jump in because skipping the practice would actually disrupt their established routine and cause psychological discomfort. Their system is a protective armor that guards them against their own human weaknesses. Another massive misunderstanding is the idea that willpower is an unlimited resource that you can just force into existence. Imagine your willpower as a battery on your smartphone that starts at 100% every morning. Every time you resist a donut, force yourself to focus, or make a hard decision, that battery drains. Flash motivation screams at you to just try harder and ignore the low battery warning. But by the evening, the battery is completely dead, and your primitive brain takes full control. A system is like keeping your phone plugged into a charger all day long. It automates the decisions, so you never have to drain your precious willpower battery in the first place. If you throw away all the junk food in your house on a Sunday, you do not need willpower on a Wednesday. The system has already successfully fought the battle for you days in advance. Motivation tells you to be strong in the face of intense temptation. Systems tell you to be smart and completely avoid the temptation altogether. When you realize this, you stop feeling guilty for being tired and start feeling empowered to change your environment. So, how can you immediately declare victory and start building your own unbeatable system today? The first step is to completely let go of the fantasy that you need to feel good to take action. Give yourself full permission to feel grumpy, exhausted, and entirely uninspired while doing the work. Next, identify one massive goal you have been relying on motivation to achieve, like learning a language. Break that massive, terrifying goal into a system so ridiculously small that it is impossible to fail. Commit to studying just one single vocabulary word every day right after you drink your morning coffee. Then, engineer your physical space to guarantee this tiny action happens effortlessly. Leave a flashcard sitting directly on top of your coffee mug before you go to sleep tonight. When you wake up, you do not need to summon a fiery passion for linguistics. You just need to move the card to get to your coffee, and the system instantly triggers the habit. Over time, these tiny, systematic actions compound like interest in a bank account, creating massive transformations. You will look back in a year and realize you achieved greatness without ever breaking a motivational sweat. You have officially transitioned from hoping for a good day to engineering a successful life. In the brutal fight between flash motivation and sustainable systems, motivation might win the first exciting round, but the system is the undisputed heavyweight champion that takes home the belt at the end of the year. Stop relying on the unpredictable matches of motivation to heat your life. Start building the solid, boring, yet totally unbreakable engine of a daily system. Remember, you do not rise to the level of your sudden inspirations. You fall to the level of your systems. So, think about the goal you have abandoned the most times in the past. What is the very first environmental system you will build tonight to make failure practically impossible tomorrow?